To order. Is there any additions to the agenda? Adoption, Rex?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if I have a concern from the Gleason community, if I could bring that up at some point.
Okay, I would put that, I've already put that down, Rex, as 2.2I.
2.2I.
Yeah, 2.2G is terms of reference handout, and the 2.2H is memorandum of understanding handout. Then 2.2I, your concern.
Okay, and then I don't know if it needs to be on the agenda specifically, Mr. Chairman, but I'd like to address the council at the end of our session today, prior to adjournment.
Okay, I'll just put your name right on top of adjournment then. Okay, any other additions? Council's wishes? Alice has moved. All in favor? Carried. We have an appointment at 11 o'clock. It's 11 o'clock. ISL Engineering and Land Services. Colton's going to introduce.
I'm going to be removing myself from council on this particular one.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to introduce Courtney Miller and Jeffrey Schulmeister, who will be speaking on behalf of ISL. They completed a wetland impact assessment for the Cheadle area, and they're just going to do an overview of their report. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Jeffrey Schulmeister, the Manager of Water and Environment for ISL Engineering. Just giving a bit of a brief introduction before I turn things over to Courtney. ISL originally got involved in the Cheadle area structure plan. We've been working on a master drainage plan for the hamlet starting back in 2016 basically. That sort of has fed naturally into this wetland inventory. It fit with the talents we have on staff in terms of wetland science practitioners, and so basically we were engaged to undertake the wetland inventory, and so I'll just turn it over to Courtney to basically run through the actual technical of the whole thing.
Good morning, everyone. I apologize for my voice. I'm just getting it back now, but I promise I shouldn't be contagious. So before we really get into this, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what a wetland is. A wetland must have 3 different components to it. It means that it must have a certain hydrology, specific soils, and specific vegetation. And if you do not have all of these 3 things, or have the potential to have all of these 3 things in the absence of disturbance, it's not considered a wetland. So generally, why do we care about wetlands? They've got a lot of benefits on the landscape from a hydrologic perspective or a water quality perspective, as well as ecological value such as supporting food chains or perhaps habitat for rare species. They also have high human use value through either recreation such as hunting or through research and education too. So this wetland inventory allows us to best identify where these features are, and wetland inventories are the best way to manage your wetland assets on the landscape. So it's hard to know what you have and how to best manage those features if you don't know where those features are located and the current condition of those features. So that was sort of what I was out there doing. Just briefly what I did, under the wetland policy, the provincial, which is pursuant to the Water Act, there was a historic photograph review component where we have to identify wetland features based on historic photos and historic precipitation analysis, which then targeted our field assessments where we would go out and identify and classify wetlands. We delineated the wetlands. We identified types of disturbance. We did soils assessments on all of them, and we also identified the wetland vegetation community as well. So what did we find? In general, there was 15 wetlands. Most of these wetlands were ephemeral or temporary marshes. And so what that means is that these wetlands are really only wet under, after snowmelt and after extreme precipitation events. So that's ephemeral marshes. These are what used to be known as just Class 1 wetlands, and temporary marshes are what used to be known as Class 2 wetlands. There were no seasonal marshes, but there was a semi-permanent marsh, which is actually what I've identified as the Cheadle Wetland Complex. Now, the Cheadle Wetland Complex does have different types of wetland classes in it, so there may be Class 1 portions or Class 2 portions, but overall, you class wetlands to the deepest portion of the basin. So in this case, the Cheadle Wetland Complex is a semi-permanent marsh, or historically, under the old policy, that would have been known as a Class 4 wetland. So where are these wetlands located? This was where we were restricted to be identifying wetlands. This pink line through here. I think I have access. Okay, so this light greenish blue color here, this is actually the Cheadle Wetland Complex. And the Cheadle Wetland Complex was delineated in the field, but also what allowed us to identify the extent of it was looking at the pre-disturbance photographs. So this went back to, I believe, the 1960s, before most of Cheadle was there. So that's how we were able to identify that the Cheadle Wetland Complex, even though this piece up here is not seemingly connected to any of the rest of the complex, historically it was, so it is still part of the Cheadle Wetland Complex. There's also a series of culverts that connect the complex together. I believe that there is definitely one up around here somewhere across this old railway, and then also there's across the road here. There's also an unnamed watercourse that conveys water from the Cheadle Wetland Complex north of the plan area up here. This piece here is identified only as a drainage. It lacks those features that would suggest it being a wetland, meaning that water doesn't stay there long enough over the year, or perhaps it's moving such that it doesn't have the soils or the vegetation or the hydrology. These lighter blue features through here, so like this one or this one, these are the other wetland that we were identifying throughout the area. These features were primarily cultivated, and most of these features are the Class 1 or Class 2 or ephemeral and temporary wetlands, which is why they're able to be cultivated. Which gets on to our existing disturbances and what did we see out there. Many wetlands had more than one type of disturbance, and it's important to identify the types of disturbance because this can impact your wetland functions and the benefits that you receive from those on the landscape. So many of the wetlands were cultivated or had been impacted by livestock, whether it was grazing or there were even just paths going through them. Also, there was a high abundance of weeds and undesirable species. So weeds is something that's identified by the Weed Control Act. These are prohibited noxious or noxious weeds. And then undesirable species, I would consider anything that is not a native species. There's also roadway, ditch, and culvert modifications where, we talked about how there was water conveying from the one side of the Highway 24 to the other that through a culvert. And then there's also other kinds of modifications on the landscape too, like channelization. So in general, what did we recommend as a result of this inventory? So the master drainage plan identified drainage easement areas where there would be limits to development in those areas. And so we overlaid that with our wetland inventory, and what we found was that was generally consistent with the areas of more permanent water or where water was flowing. So that means that absolutely I agree with what those recommendations for drainage easements, that those areas should be avoided for development. For additional development considerations, though, I'd say that the Cheadle Wetland Complex is the priority area for kind of preservation or conservation. And the reason for that is that those other wetlands in the area have already been disturbed, generally by cultivation, so they're not really functioning highly on the landscape anyways, but we do know that most of the Cheadle Wetland Complex still has a lot of wetland vegetation, it has the hydrology, and it still all has a lot of really great soils still intact, so it's still offering a lot of different benefits. Wetland complexes are also really important on the landscape because they offer different types of habitat within one contiguous feature, and so maintaining that integrity of that feature on the landscape is important for that as well. Now, we know that the area is highly influenced by groundwater, and so one of our recommendations to protect adjacent landowners is that if there is development within the Cheadle Wetland Complex, that there would be a groundwater effects assessment to confirm that there'd be no downstream impacts to other landowners. The other recommendation is the existing bylaw does have setbacks required in there, and within the Cheadle Wetland Complex, so a lot of setbacks are based on what the site specifically is and the type of development it is. So we're recommending that any developer within 30 meters of the Cheadle Wetland Complex submit a formal evaluation and a setback recommendation for their development and how that might impact the Cheadle Wetland Complex, because that really depends on the type of development that they're doing there, and it's difficult for us at this stage to come up with a specific number that would be appropriate for that. And that is all. So if anyone has any questions.
Any questions? Brenda?
So could you bring that map back up again, on the one where the purple line is over top of your green line?
Yes, I did. Should be up.
There you go, that one.
There we go, okay.
So on that, the drainage easement is what you're recommending, is that?
The drainage easements are what were recommended in the master drainage plan. So this, I was more just saying that these are consistent with what we would expect for more permanent areas, and that would not be suitable for development because they'd have a lot of more permanent water or flow through of water there, so it would be difficult to develop within that area because of the water activity.
Okay, and
Through the chair, I think I'm just going to give a bit of background information that might kind of help explain this a bit further as well. So the master drainage plan was completed as a separate study from this wetland impact assessment, and it analyzes the overall drainage trends in the area, which is shown by the purple lines on this map. There was then the wetland impact assessment, which was done, which is more on kind of the sitting bodies of water that are sitting in the plan area, to look further at what areas aren't developable. And then finally, Public Works is working on a study as well to look at how to address existing drainage concerns within the plan area. So there's three studies going. They'll all eventually come together to result in a plan of action for this area. This will all be incorporated into the Cheadle Area Structure Plan as information to make sure that we don't have future problems with development in this area.
okay, so, and on that note then, when will be you said our own staff is working on the I presume the stormwater management within Cheadle and with the development that's already there. So how long before that would be complete?
There we go. It's well underway. I don't have any idea when the final report is going to be available to us. I'm thinking within a month.
Okay. So, and that being said, it'll be brought back to council to take action, I guess, on to what to do to solve resolve some of the solutions for drainage through that area. Is it looking like we're going to have to do something as a council or as a county to do something for that area?
Through the chair, that's yet to be determined, I think, but that was our goal.
Was to come up with something? Yes. Okay. No, I'm wondering how they're all connecting here, right? So, and what the end result will be.
Ben?
So through the chair, the development that's in those areas now, they will be grandfathered in these studies?
Through the chair, we wouldn't be asking people to move or relocate existing development within the area. We try to mitigate some of the challenges that they are facing through the public works study, and then that would be eventually a council decision as to whether you feel action is appropriate to move forward.
Yeah, actually, through the chair to the ISL engineering. Google Maps is labeled on the south side of Cheadle. Both sides of the ditch is Cheadle Springs Creek. I've been out there and there's a body of water that does run through there. You've taken that body of water that's coming from springs or whatever into consideration as well.
Yeah, and then obviously anything that's out there has been taken into account where Google gets some of its naming conventions from, we can't totally say. Like, there are some older maps that have varying names for things out there, basically, which aren't necessarily carried through anywhere in particular, hence why, you know, depending on what you look at, different things are called different things, and that's why, you know, we refer to things as unnamed, because if everyone can't even agree on what it's called, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's, whether it's called that or not called that, I guess I'm just trying to make sure that the impact of that, what I would call a spring, is brought into this drainage plan, because it's definitely one of the main issues there.
Yeah, that's, and like we say, the drainage course has been labeled in the review. Like, if we go back to the Courtney's other one where she had some of the slides talking about being the drainage course running through, so that is all, that is considered. So like, she got that sort of yellow area at the end, which is drainage, which is the downstream end of that, you know, more predominant water course. So yes, it is considered in all of this.
Any other questions? Don?
Did you look at the hydraulics affecting Cheadle coming from Weed Lake at Langdon?
So the master drainage plan did look at overland drainage patterns over an extended area. So there is drainage that's sort of coming in and sort of running up around the northwestern side of Cheadle, basically on that, to that effect. So anything we had as far as overland drainage in the master drainage plan was considered here. It's probably less of a thing when it comes to the wetland assessment, certainly, than it is in terms of overland flow, but yes, that was considered in the master drainage plan.
Hydraulics is moisture coming from underground up. And also, can an area be developed, a wetland area, if it's improved and everything, and replaced someplace else? Calgary's famous for that.
I guess sort of two pieces to that. So we'll refer to the wetland part to Courtney, but for when we talk about what we consider with Weed Lake and stuff like that, the master drainage plan was to look at surface flow. Subsurfaces hydrogeology, that wasn't part of the scope of either study, basically. So that hasn't been considered, other than what we see as evidence of the standing water that does exist because of any hydrogeological connection. In terms of the wetland compensation,
Under the wetland policy, which is under the Provincial Water Act, wetland replacement is required if you are going to be removing wetland area or function from the landscape. And this is where the new wetland policy really comes into play. Historically, there was an interim policy where it was a standard 3-to-1 replacement ratio. Under the new policy, it's more based on wetland function. And there's a model that goes into the provincial government that comes back and tells you what that wetland functions, or what that wetland value is for you to have wetland replacement. And wetland replacement can be paid in fee in lieu, or there's other mechanisms now that they're still working through, but they are available to proponents, where you would perhaps be able to develop your own wetlands, but there'd have to be monitoring requirements and validation requirements. There's a potential research component as well that you can do. You can also use stormwater management facilities in some instances for wetland replacement as well.
Ben?
Well, I was going to just move to receive the report as information, and thank you for that.
Okay. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Make sure I get that crossed off here. Okay, we'll go back to 2.2A, request for decision, Hamlet residential area signs. Yeah, we can go get Bernice. Thank you. Rex.
I'll make the motion that council approve the installation of residential area warning signs at the entrance of the hamlets of Carson, Cheadle, Cluny, Gleason, Lyalta, Nameka, Rosebud, and Speargrass.
Okay, is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. She wasn't really Are you in favor, Bernice? You have to vote. Are you in favor of the residential signs? You were in the room, so I'm going to ask you to vote. Okay. In favor or not? In favor? Okay. Carried. Request for decision, Cooperative Stormwater Management Initiative Master Agreement. Ben?
I'll move the recommendation with the CSMI Master Agreement, Stormwater Agreement, and further that any substantial changes to the draft agreement will require an additional review from council.
Okay, any questions or concerns? Brenda?
I presume we're probably send it to our legal? Are we sending this to our legal?
Ellen, are we sending this to legal?
Mr. Chairman, this has already been vetted through our legal as per Rocky View County's direction. So I would not recommend paying for that again. So
Okay.
Wheatland County hasn't paid for the review, but our same lawyer that Rocky View uses is our lawyer.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. Any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, South Region ASB Conference.
Mr. Chairman, we would like to request a change in this motion based on the motion from the Ag Service Board. So Armstrong moved that the Ag Service Board move to recommend to council approval for the attendance of Ag Service Board members and administration to the 2017 South Region ASB Conference hosted by the County of Warner in Milk River on October 31st, 2017, including one overnight stay, and further that it be recommended to council that approval be given for the ASB chair or designate and manager of agriculture services to attend the South Region ASB committee meeting on October 30th, 2017. So that change basically includes all of the Ag Service Board. Previously, it didn't give overnight stay accommodation for the Ag Service Board, only for the chairman and the administrative rep. So.
Okay, thanks for that. Council's wishes. Don?
Question first, does this include members at large?
Any member from the Ag Service Board is included, yes.
Okay. Also move.
Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, ASB Environmental Stewardship Awards.
Also move, Mr. Chairman.
Rex is moved. Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Request for decision, Alberta South Central Mutual Aid Agreement.
I so moved the recommended. Pardon?
That's okay. I was looking different.
Oh, okay. Approve entering into the Alberta South Central Mutual Aid Agreement to provide emergency or disaster response if required and able to do so.
Is there any questions or concerns? All in favor? Request for decision, intern operating and capital budget review, second draft.
Through the chair, as it's only a draft, I'll move.
And is moved. Is there any questions or concerns?
I was going to see if that request for the signage was put through on that. And to get entered into
Sorry?
the solar-powered signs. I had put a request for that to be entered, so I didn't know, I hadn't had a chance, an opportunity to look it over.
Mike?
Through the chair, I can confirm that those two signs for electronic radar speed were included in the original budget. I believe it was 15,000. We do have a quote on supply of those signs, so we included that in the budget.
Alice?
I have a number of questions. On the legislation, maybe to the CAO, I don't see anywhere in the expenditures for councillor's pension plan to be brought up for 2018. If there's any councillors that would like to do that, would that be put on this budget?
Mr. Chairman, that's not been the direction of council to include that. That was a discussion that council had, but there was no direction. If council wishes that to be put in there, we can certainly put that in there, but it's not been included. You're correct.
No.
Not at this council, but we have a new council coming up. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, we'll let the new council decide then,
Well, that's my point.
unless you want to put a motion on.
So they should have the opportunity to look at that. So there'll be another budget come in after the end of the month. Is that correct?
Mr. Chairman, this is the second draft, so any comments you'd like for the final draft, we would like to have now.
Right.
Because we'll be bringing the final draft in November for the council to review.
So now I'm told that I can't comment on that because the last council has voted against it. So how do I put that in for a new council to look at it before the draft is final?
I believe we voted against it, so if the next council wants to have it, they can vote on it and make a motion, the new council. We can't be making motions and assuming what the new council wants to do. It'll be a new council and they can decide. So I believe this council's decided not to include it, so I believe it will not be included.
That's this council that it's not going to be running this budget. It could be well changed. So that's my point. You just said to make a motion.
Well, maybe we can put on buying a jet plane or something for the next council.
Well,
We'll leave the next council decide
could
it.
do that.
Okay?
Yeah.
And if they want to spend the money, they can decide where they're going to get it from. I believe is how we've been doing business now. We do it by motions.
And
So, Ben?
I didn't need the sarcastic remark, and I'm not finished. Handy
I'm
bus
sorry,
is another
Ben.
one.
So
Has the money been put aside for the handy bus?
Ben, you
just
finish
for the
your
other,
talk.
for the other one, through the chair, it was discussed, the motion was brought up and council voted in opposition to put anything in there for council pensions, so
It's a year ago.
it's, to me, it's a dead subject until it goes into whoever wants to put it on the floor, but right now, this council has voted it down, so.
Okay. Any other questions? Rex?
I think there was a Hamlet's crew change for an increase in funding, and it's not significant. Tools, supplies, Hamlet crew. So I guess it might be a two-part question, but I guess first and foremost, why the adjustment from 5 to 25,000? And I guess I'm thinking, does the Hamlet crew also work on our bridges as well? No? Okay. So I guess just what the increase in supplies is, because it is a small number, but you're going from 5 to 25, which is 5 times as much.
Through the chair, so that increase was requested, looking at the existing expenditures through the year here and seeing we do need to build up our inventory for, we mainly use those supplies for water main breaks, that sort of thing. That's to purchase pipe, manholes, really just to build up our inventory, which has been depleted over the last year. We did a lot of work. I don't know if you've noticed in the hamlets this last year and a half, there's been a lot of upgrades, a lot of maintenance that's been long needed in the hamlets. So we've depleted our resources there. This is just to bring that back up.
Okay, so then, more to that, Mr. Chairman. So then, if you're bringing that up for 2018, will it go back down in 2019? Did I miss? It's probably right there in front of me and I missed it. I've passed it, sorry, I'm not gonna find it in a hurry, but I guess, can you answer that question?
I don't recall actually if we carried that forward for the years after that. The intent was to bring it forward and then kind of make a reassessment at this time next year, see how much of that has been used. Like I say, we kind of started and put a lot of effort into the repairs this year, so we should be caught up, but I think I might have still carried forward a little bit extra to make sure that we're not in deficit for the next year.
Okay, any other questions? Alice?
Through to the CAO, page 29. All the illness, LAP, CPP, and that has been missed out of the budget on that page. Has it been picked up somewhere else? Page 29 of the operating budget. And for 2018, there is no expenses put in for all of the WCB, EI, CPB. Is that maybe placed somewhere else? Right at the top of the page. Yeah, I don't know if he's maybe put it somewhere else. I don't know, I couldn't find it. Pardon me? All of the expenses for critical illness, LAP, CPP, EI, dental benefits, WCB, it's all missing for 2018. So it's either missing or it's somewhere else. I couldn't locate it, so that's my question. So where is it? It's a lot of money to be missed. It does have a,
It has a total.
it's got a total there of $9,590,000, but
It only has the depreciation of Public Works in there.
yeah.
Everything above it is blank.
That's just the depreciation. Yeah.
But everything above it is
It's
blank.
got, yeah.
Brian coming? Yeah. Hi, Brian. There's a question on page 29 of the operating budget about 2018 and the continuation of LAP grants and workman's compensation, et cetera.
Yes, so through the chair, the reason why there is no amounts in that specific line is because certain employees, specifically Public Works employees, a lot of their wages are capitalized. So with the new kind of accounting structure that we have, some of the limited costs that were associated with those specific accounts, so in the cost center specifically, 3200, those specific costs were either allocated out to different cost or departments or capitalized. So any new positions that were added into the 2018 to 2020 budget were put on page 1 of the summary, and any other costs in that specific department were just allocated to different departments.
Okay, thanks for that. Any
Yep.
other questions?
That explains, thanks.
Go ahead.
So I guess my question is that we're supposed to be allocating out the cost and the expense on projects, right? And we're supposed to be doing some project costing. So with that being said, I'm staff and wages and everything would be allocated to that. So my question is why would we not be doing the dental benefits and all the things that come under public works? Like you're allocating out to different budgets. So you're saying that all the dental expenses are now going into dental expenses as a whole? Or did you just allocate public works over to, like, let's say, construction or staffing, or I don't know. Let's go with Lisa's job that she's a computer. So we put it all onto IT. Is that what you're doing there? Or, like, I don't understand how you can move something that's allocated out to public works over to a different department.
So through the chair, the process that I undertake to allocate out any wage or benefit accounts. So the wage or benefit accounts are, they're all coded the same under each department. So any of those codes would be 2,100 to 2,199. So an example of public works. So there's a couple different departments under public works. So there's public works admin, public work or grading, gravel. So there's different crews. So the specific ones that were moved like exclusively to capital are the crews that we have. So some of the seasonal people that we have exclusively work on road construction projects. So any of those wages of those individuals were moved to capital projects. Someone that works exclusively in administration, all of their wages and benefits would be under 21202 2100. That's where their wage would fall. If we have an employee who works under multiple departments, so let's just say an employee who works in different departments. I don't have an example, but say they have a third of their time into each department. Well, a third of their wages would fall under one department, a third would fall under another department, and kind of so forth until 100% of their wages have been allocated out into the budget.
Any other questions? I believe Ben has moved. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. G, terms of reference. That was the handout. Thanks, Brian. Any questions? Brenda?
I guess just a note on this, after reading it, the note at the bottom of the asterisk that is recognized on the last page, very last page of the document, and there's a note with regards to Wheatland County right at the very bottom. And I just thought that was interesting that it is noted that we are of, includes only a portion, but that the representation and all its rights and privileges, including voting, shall be provided to this municipality. So
through the chair, I'm glad they recognize it, and I hope they keep recognizing it. But to me, this document, the other one, are basically play fair in the sand until everything's locked up and sealed tight. So I'll move the approval of the draft terms of reference.
Okay, is there any other questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. And memorandum of understanding,
So
2.2H.
I'll move that to approve the MOU as currently drafted for the Interim Growth Management Board. And I guess the clarification for me is the fact that this is Airdrie that has essentially put it out because they're in charge of the funding for the grant funding that's coming in from the province. And that's my understanding of the MOU. So I'll move for approval.
Okay, any questions or concerns?
Mr. Chairman, can I just add one thing on that? Sorry, on the request for decision, we neglected to put on there. In order to execute this, we probably need council to give direction to the Reeve to sign on behalf of the municipality. If that
On the
makes
back
sense.
page.
On the
Yeah.
back page, yeah.
Is that included in your motion, Brenda?
I accept the friendly amendment.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And Rex, 2 minutes or less?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, just real quick, and through the chair to Alan, I believe you had left Gleason last Friday before this come up, but one of the concerns on their water bills was the fact that it comes every 2 months. I had a request that it come every month, just so that they were easier able to handle their bills. So
That's certainly something that can be done. If you'd like to make a motion of council, that would be great. We'd love to do that.
Okay.
Yep.
That was definitely a concern. I'll make a motion and we can discuss it real quick. I don't want to drag it out, but I mean, that was the majority of the request there. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we change our water billing from every, to monthly utility billing on the water.
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask you, you mean all utilities including wastewater, right?
Well, it all comes in one bill, does it not?
Yeah, but you're saying water. What I'm saying is utility billing?
Yeah,
Which includes water and wastewater. If you say water, that's only for water. So
Okay.
just to be clear.
Yeah, so absolutely. So we'll change it over to monthly. Some of the residents and the seniors in that community had expressed that it's just easier for them to handle if it's done monthly.
So just a question, that's for all our hamlets, not just Gleason?
Well, I mean, I don't know how we could go and do one community every
No,
month
I'm
and
just
not the
ask-
rest.
Yeah.
But I'm asking for the discussion too.
So your motion's utility bills, monthly billing. Okay, Brenda?
So on that note, if, I'm pretty sure that if you go to monthly, but if you wanted to as a utility, you could request or make a request to the county if you wanted to change your billing procedures with, like, for example, if I want to change ATCO and I want to bill monthly or bi-monthly, or if I want to pay in advance, I can go make those arrangements. Would that still be available with that motion? So monthly is monthly, but if you wanted to and you wanted to remain on the bi-monthly, would it be feasible to do that or not?
First ask, are we capable of such?
I think what you're asking is, can you do a monthly billing? Yes, we can do that. We can also set customers up so that there's an equal amount spread out through the year, similar to what other municipalities do. Is that what you're asking? Prepaid? Yeah. Yeah, we can set.
Like, there's
customers
more
up.
options
Yes.
that are available than just monthly. You can set them up as you have the ability to come in and make an arrangement with the county to set up how you pay, when you pay, all those kind of things. So instead of just paying the monthly bill, they can come in and pay, let's say my bill's $50 or $49 or $45, and I decide that I'm going to let you take direct deposit out of my account $50 a month, every month. That's the kind of stuff we can do, right? So you're able to do that fluctuation, and that's all I wanted to know.
Yeah, I would accept that. And just to clarify, so that when you say you can set up your billing, as long as it's a prepay setup, not hey, I want to pay mine once a year, I'll wait till the bill comes at the end of the year, right? So that's prepaid, yeah, yeah. So I would accept that. So the motion would read that, that we move to a monthly utility bill, and that residents have the option to make adjustments using the prepay system on when they pay. However, whatever works with staff. That's fine.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? Carried. Okay. I'd like to welcome our MP, Mr. Martin Shields. Keep wanting to call him a football player. I think you have some presentations to do.
Well, good morning. Thank you for the invitation to come to your council. It's always interesting to sit and listen to a council. I very much enjoy that, having been involved in it for years. So appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I have a staff member, right behind me, Andrea Hook's with me today. And it's great to have her out here to help me make sure we're doing the right thing. But the request came and to nominate many people that work as volunteers as fire chiefs within the county of Wheatland. And we were delighted to have that kind of a request come to us to recognize them as part of our 150 recognition. So today we're delighted to be here to recognize those people that work throughout your county to provide the kind of service that is a call out as volunteers. It's not just sort of a 8 to 5 type of commitment, it's a 24/7 commitment. I think in the prairies we sort of haven't had much fire issues recently, but the Waterton Park one was a lot of volunteers and fire departments went to that one. And then we had the one that happened around the Suffield base, which again called out a lot of volunteer fire departments to fight a very huge grass fire. I've had the opportunity in flying over that to see how extensive that was and the challenge it was to fight a grass fire. Those grass fires used to be a common occurrence a long time ago in the prairies, and there's been a lot of mitigation efforts put in place, but still under the right conditions those things can be horrendous in the damage they cause. So not only structural that we often think of in the sense of fighting fires, but the damage that can be done by the grass fires that could happen on the prairies in our farming areas can be very devastating as well. So to the volunteer firemen who train and work to find under many various conditions out there of structural as well as on the prairies, on the grasslands, in the farming areas, we do owe them a gratitude for what they commit to and to our communities and the people who live within our jurisdictions. So to be able to recognize a group who provide that kind of service under this program, delighted to do that. So if we could proceed to do that, we'd be delighted to. Okay. Of course, after we present this, we want to stay here as a group, so we get a group shot in, because who's ever taking pictures will want more than one. Thank you very much. Jeff Sear. Hey, Mark. Max. Yeah, super. Surprising. Great. Thought it was spelled a little different. That was unofficial. Phil. Hey, good work. Turn this way. We'll get it right yet.
Good. Thank you.
Ryan? Art? There's Art, yes. Mike?
Oh, I know, like Jacobishan, I'll accept on his behalf.
All right.
I'm not, I'll accept on his behalf.
All right, well, congratulations for accepting on his behalf.
Thanks very much.
You bet. Albert? Congratulations. Thank you. Andrew?
Thank you very much for your service.
Judy? Ah, now you can come back. Officially.
I'm Ron too.
Jeez.
Right? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Judy, and Ron, and Mike.
So you as photographers, where would you like them?
I think council should
us in these presentations of the Canada 150 medals. Thank you.
So thank you.
And next up is a public hearing for bylaw 2017-19. And I believe I need a motion to recess council and go into the public hearing. Alice? All in favor? Carried. And we can start the public hearing. Nobody here? Mike? Have all the proper notifications been done?
Yep, so through the chair, this was notified, posted for advertising for 2 weeks in the local paper.
Okay.
And notification was put on our website as well. So if there's any questions on the bylaw, I can answer them.
Okay, any questions? Brenda?
So, just let me go to the, trying to get at Wheeland County policy, blockage policy. So is this the bylaw or the policy? Or does
So-
it include both?
I included the blockage policy in the package, but I neglected to add that to the motion here. So if council wanted to make an additional motion on accepting the blockage policy, it has been changed. This was before council a few months ago and was sent back with just a couple minor revisions to wording. I've made those revisions, so if council sees fit, they can also accept this policy today.
Okay, well, I guess my comment is on the first one you put into the premises on the policy, which is general.
Let's.
So
just-
that's why I'm asking, what are we supposed to be?
We're just going to do the public hearing. This policy is a different thing. It doesn't need to
Okay.
be part of. So any discussion on the blockage one will be in council. How's that sound?
Well, that's what I'm, yeah,
Okay,
because that's what
the way
I'm,
we'll do it then. So we'll just do the public hearing on the, yeah, water, wastewater bylaw.
so I just have a correction and add an
Okay.
S on 202, under definitions.
Okay.
On the actual bylaw, that's the only,
Right, page 294?
202, under definitions, page 294, yeah.
Okay, what's your question?
No, they're missing an S on that one. Yeah, just missing an S.
Okay, any other questions? Any more comments, questions? Brenda?
Under, under discontinuance of sewer services on page 296, must give a minimum 1 week prior written notice, either in person, by telephone, or in writing. Are you going to include electronic methods in there or not? No?
Through the chair, no, we typically post notification on their door. That way we're ensure that they receive the proper notification. Electronic would just be an open void there that we may not get clarification on, so.
I had a question on that one. My concern is, we're just accepting a phone call or why wouldn't we have it registered? If somebody wants us to discontinue service, why wouldn't we say that it be by registered mail? There's some way so that there's a paper record of, in case we end up with something like we went through in here with a gentleman, so that it's very clear and you can go back on the record and on such and such a date it was requested that, either way, whether we're shutting it off or whether they're shutting it off, both ways.
And that was my question with regards to electronic, because if they email and they accept or don't accept, you have a date, time, and it's stamped. That's why I wondered whether, instead of telephone, electronic mail, written, and that. But telephone is just you and I talking, and there's no record of that. So I'm wondering, that was one of my concerns in there.
I get your point, but not everybody is on computers, so if they aren't able to get electronic mail,
Yeah,
right?
but if Ben suggests it says 1 week prior, notice, either in person,
Should
by
be
telephone, or in writing. So that's what my suggestion is to take out the telephone and put electronic and writing.
And in person.
Or in person, yeah.
I'd walk in here and say, shut my stuff off.
Mhm.
Yeah, very good points. As far as through the chair for the electronic, as Councillor Booth mentioned, a lot of folks don't have email. At the same time, we don't have a lot of the contact information by email here.
Yeah.
If we do, we go through the gamut, just like we do with all the other. We'll do the phone call, we'll do fax, whatever we need to do to get a hold of these people. So we use email at that time. We can look at an internal system here to at least have a sign off from the landowner or from the occupant when they are requesting these.
Yeah, because like, I understand the email part, but if I send an email, telling you I want that, do you make a paper copy of that and put it in the record? Where's the record of that 6 months from now?
It's gone.
It's out in
Yeah.
hyperspace somewhere.
Sorry, through the chair, if we did receive a written document, like we would print it off. I believe their process is to print off any notifications like that. And,
Off an email?
Off an email, for sure, yeah. I mean, as far as the actual verification of that with the landowner, that's where we may have an issue, saying I didn't send that email, that sort of thing. That's why it would be something I can talk to Brian and utilities on that side to see if that's an option for having a physical sign off on these.
If somebody come in person for a discontinuance, that would be easy. You can just have a little paper for them to sign. By telephone, it's hard to get it verified. Writing, I guess you have a letter. Same as an email. Okay.
electronic.
Well,
One of those two, because then if they want, you know what, they still got to sign.
About 1 week prior written notice. However, if it's a note when they're in person, or if it's an email, or if it's a letter, something that's verifiable, a written thing down. So, I can't vote on it, but is everyone in agreement with that?
Were you saying take a note in person? Is that what you're indicating?
No, by telephone,
No, but he said telephone or email.
written notice.
Written or email.
So if they come in person, it's easy to get them to sign a paper
Yeah,
saying,
I
right?
realize that, but
They have to have something with their signature on it. And we have to do the same going their way. They have to have something.
so, and in a lot of cases, so if the landlord, I'm just suggesting that a landlord who, and normally a landlord will just essentially phone and say, I have no tenants in it, so can you please disconnect the services, right? But I'm not sure, that'll depend if most landlords usually don't cut services off, they just continue it, so.
I guess that's up to them. This is about people who want to disconnect or discontinue. So everyone in agreement? Okay, any other questions, concerns? Alice?
On 301, and we did have on the second line, the county shall, and then we took it and made may. So may isn't mandatory. So when we're able to do so and subject to any terms, costs, or changes established by council, including those outlined by the bylaw as amended from time to time, provide the owner of the premise with sewer service upon the written application of the owner and the payment of the connection fee in this by. So why change it back to may? Is that there's a reason behind that thinking? It means that the county doesn't have to follow through. They may, they could, you know, it's, so.
Sorry, 301 is the section you're referring to? Section 301? Okay. So through the chair, that was changed basically because there are numerous properties in the hamlets that don't have services and may not, even though there is a sewer main or a water main adjacent to their property, the condition of that may not allow for the connection of it. The depth of the existing lot, that sort of thing, as well the proximity. If it's adjacent, I guess the adjacent comes into the question here, what is adjacent? We have some properties that adjacent is 60, 70 meters. And for the county to put up upfront the cost on that, it's something that is left for the council decision, I guess is where I've put that in the may. It's not a for sure that the council will agree to it. It's left up to the council discretion with that term there.
So each time you hook up, then you're going to come into council to get their approval to make a hookup? Is that why, that's basically what you're saying. So this comes back to the council each time to approve a hookup if it's right across the way or if it's the block away? What difference would it make? If we have water and sewer in a community, why would you not hook them up if somebody wanted it? I don't see why we would be hedging on whether or not it's too costly for us to hook up. We're supposed to be supplying the service, right? Mm-hmm. So you're saying, well, we might do it, we might not, depending on where it is. I can't see the thought behind that.
Max? Go ahead.
Well, it's not really probably for me to comment, but I would suspect if you had an area that a developer wanted to develop on a far edge of a hamlet that we own as a county or something like that, and they put it in, and then they're demanding services, and we're saying, well, actually, that service is gonna cost us this much money and would take us this long to get, to recoup costs, or it's actually gonna take us a year longer than you are requesting the service for, then I guess that's maybe where I would see that fit in. If there's an issue providing that service, whether it's costly or distance. Is that an accurate statement?
Through the chair, that's correct. That's kind of the thought process behind this. Like I say, in the past, we have service lots that were substantially more than we'll ever recover in utilities. And fair enough, that was council's discretion at that time to allow that connection. I just feel it's outside of the realm of approval of the Public Works Department when we're looking at that much of increasing costs. Right now, what we do, we look at the policy, the procedure we've been following is the county pays for basically the half the cost of connection if it's a reasonable connection within the adjacent road right of way. So we'll have the county will pay from the sewer main up to the property line, and the landowner will pay for the portion depending how far it is on their property to connect into their house. Some of these properties are larger lots. They cost a little bit more to go to their dwelling. So I don't think it was appropriate for all the taxpayers to pay for, depending on where the connection, where the house connection is on these. In the past, we have had requests, like I say, to have these connections block away, like hundreds of meters away from the sewer main. And it was a decision to bring that to council, and it actually was approved at that moment. But there also have been ones that have been refused because of the cost on these. More of a cost sharing put back towards the landowner for the majority cost on those. So this clause here allows for council's discretion on these abnormal connection fees. The normal ones that we have that are adjacent, and they're basically a cost split between the landowner and the county, we won't be bringing those back to council for decision. It's just the abnormal ones that this clause addresses.
Okay. Alice?
Well, further to that, if we're doing economic development and we want to populate our small communities and put people in there, is this not sort of saying, well, we may do it, but, right? So it's just not sitting that well with me. I think if we're in charge of these communities and it's part of the county, we're supplying sewer, we want people on it, and wastewater is going to come into effect on all of this. So do we need to have a conversation on where we want to go? Or we're just going to sit there and say, well, we may do it, we may not. You know, that's my problem with it.
Ben?
Through the chair, doesn't the may mean, I'm coming from the same as Rex, we may do it if it fits our timeline, but if a contractor comes in or a developer comes in and wants to develop it, and we aren't ready to do anything in that for the next year or 2 years in that area, we aren't going to be forced to have to put that in. If they want to do it, then they can put it in at their cost. That's to me, that's what the may means. If it works within our schedule, then yeah, we may work with them and do it. But otherwise, they can't force us to do it on their schedule. I guess that's where I'm coming from.
Okay, I see your point, but that wasn't the way I was reading this, so, yeah.
Ben?
I think the 514. I like the way 514C reads, but I don't like the way A, B, and D read. C says that unless you can prove that there was negligence by the county or its employees, the rest of them just say it doesn't matter how it was caused, we're not responsible for it. If we're responsible for something that happens, we're responsible for it. I don't think we can pass that. And D, we don't guarantee pressure or the continuous supply of water. And we reserve the right at any time and at all times without notice change the pressure or shut the water right off. I don't think we I don't think we have that right unless it's an emergency. I think we need to clean that up a bit, because some people out there may be dependent health-wise on on this. So I would rather see that somehow tie in with C, where if it's due to our negligence, then yeah, we're responsible, and shutting off of water or lowering the pressure, that there has to be some, unless it's an emergency issue, there has to be some kind of a notice out there.
30 days is normal.
Well, I wouldn't say 30 days, but a week anyways. If we're going to go in and do some work in an area, we need to give them notice that we're doing that, so that they have, I don't know how you change that, but.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, and so through the chair, that clause did speak more to emergent situations where we don't have the ample notification time. We do, every time we do groundwork, every time we're shutting off services, we have door-to-door notices as well as notification on website as well. So we're definitely covered on that side. This is more to, I guess, the unknowns, to put a clause in here for the unknowns, the emergent items that we have a water main break and somebody loses their, I don't know, somebody's water line is contaminated in their house because of that loss. This just kind of speaks to the fact that we don't have control over that, and I guess hopefully takes away a little bit of our liability on people coming back and lawsuits and that sort of thing. Yep.
Go under A then, and that clause.
No, it says that the county is not liable for damages caused by the breakage, plugging, or stoppage of any sanitary sewer system. And B says basically the same thing, and then C says we are responsible if you can prove it. The other two says it doesn't matter if you can prove it or not, we're not responsible.
So what I'd like to see. I'd like to see that section under C, unless such accident is shown to be directly due to the negligence of county or its employees, moved up to the county is not liable for damages unless such damages is shown to be directly due to the negligence of the county or its employees, right at the front, and then list your other ones and then just remove it out of C. So then everything is covered under that. Is that what you're looking for, Ben? So take the C line out, the last portion of C, put it up.
Yeah, you're right, but it still doesn't cover D, where it gives us the right to shut it off at any time without prior notice. There has to be something there. That has to be an emergent to do that.
And we can definitely add some, sorry, through the chair, we can definitely add some, I wouldn't want to take that clause out because we do have to turn off the water, and even this year we had to turn the water off, so without notice. But yeah, something that speaks to the emergent nature of it, and no, I agree, I can do that.
Any other questions? No questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
So what would be the purpose, I guess, of, in this thing here, we actually, people pay for their meters from us?
Correct.
And so my question would be is why do you have to put a deposit down? If you're buying a meter from us and they never install it, then, like, I guess you have to put a deposit shall be required on all meter installations, but yet water meters are required. You're supposed to have a licensed plumber. So why?
So
why is it, sorry, 606 on page 299. 606, and it says the county shall supply water meters to each of the service premises. But my question is, why do you have to put a deposit down?
Okay, through the chair, that actually isn't a new clause. We've required that for a number of years. Basically, it's to confirm that the water meter was not only installed, but installed correctly. We do have a number of water meters that were installed incorrectly before we had this clarification or this verification done. And truthfully, to get into those houses is very difficult once they're installed, to get the scheduling of the landowner and that sort of thing. If we can go in, take a deposit, it's a fully refundable deposit, but it gives an incentive for the landowner to come back in and either install it, which a lot of them are bought and not installed, so we lose record of that. A lot of homeowners buy them, or sorry, home builders buy them and don't install them. So we have a number of meters that were gone. We're not sure if they're installed and just not being read. It's a closing the loop for us, basically. We're able to ensure that they are installed. One of our inspectors or one of our utility operators goes in and ensures that they're installed correctly and in the right direction, and basically signs off, and then they get their deposit back. It's nothing too onerous for the landowner. It's just an additional fee that ensures that we have everything closed up on our end here.
So when do you keep that money? If you have to put a deposit down, they must have done something or they don't get their money back. So what would be the trigger that would trigger them not coming back, not getting their deposit back?
Well, the deposit wouldn't be returned through the chair if the meter was installed incorrectly and they didn't want to rectify that, or if the meter wasn't installed to begin with. Then I guess they could make a claim to us, come back and say, I haven't installed this meter, I broke it, I lost it, and give proof of that. We would return the deposit, definitely. But it's really an incentive which we've been lacking in the past of these landowners coming back and making sure that these meters are installed or installed correctly.
So do we have the right then? Okay, so I buy a meter, I say, give you my deposit, and you come back 6 months later and say, well, we've got this deposit, Brenda, so you need to, let's have a look at your meter so we can give you your deposit back, but I haven't installed it. So you're going to, and I say, well, I can't find anybody. So you're going to install it and keep my deposit? Is that the idea? Because for $50 or whatever, you put it down as a deposit, I'm willing to say, well, hey, you come out and I didn't deposit, so are you going to come in and take my deposit and have it installed properly? Is there a trigger there that says that? Because if there isn't, then there's no point in having a deposit system. So if you come out and you say, well, you have 6 months to install your meter and I don't have it done, then that deposit should go towards our own people installing it, I would think. And say we needed to get it done, especially if you want water services. I mean, you can't have it hooked up without it. So just a thought.
I look at it similar as the $5,000 on a moved-on house. They don't do all the conditions of the permit. The county reserves the right to get it done. I would think the deposit here would reserve the right to phone up Mr. Licensed Plumber and go put it in, and your deposit would be less than what it costs to get it applied. I'm thinking, why not? Wouldn't it be? But they would have the option of hiring their own plumber at whatever rate they get, but they would have no option if we hire. Right?
Yeah, but we're only keeping their deposit. We're not billing it out.
We can use it to.
That's what I'm saying, I guess.
That's what you do with deposits, I always thought.
How much is the deposit?
I don't know.
That's correct. So through the chair, that's exactly what we would use the deposit for. It's $500, and the meter is $500. So $1,000 when they first come in and get the meter, and then it's a refundable $500 when they have it installed. Mm-hmm. We would use that money, just like we would with any other deposit we have, any other bonds, any other securities, to complete the work if it's not completed. That's like what they are used for, so that's what they have set aside for and collected for.
Alice?
I got to go back. It's not making total sense. So the only way you would get a deposit if you supplied every single person in the county with a water meter. No. Otherwise, they can go and buy it.
No.
No? How did they get the deposit?
When they buy the water.
Okay, so I just built a house.
And I can hire a guy.
And get a water meter. for the county water.
That's not what it says. Mike just said that you can get someone else to install. It doesn't say you have to buy it from here. Nowhere here says that I have to buy the meter from the county. So I can get it from a supplier. See where I'm going? Yeah.
Okay, Mike.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to find the verbiage. I mean, we've never had that instance before. We've never had anyone bring in their own meter and request that they install it. So we don't have specific verbiage.
Yes,
Mike,
we did
let
in
Mike
Gleason.
talk, please. Go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so we do require them to purchase a county water meter, one that's been verified, to work with our reading equipment and that sort of thing. They typically come to the office here. We have a numerous amount in stock, as well as upsize meters if they're looking at putting in a multifamily, that sort of thing. Depending on the usage of that water, we will sell them the appropriate meter for that service tie-in, and we'll take the appropriate deposit at that time. As far as I'm aware, we've never sold or never allowed anyone to utilize a water meter that wasn't bought straight through us. And we're actually losing money on every water meter. They're over $500 to buy here, so it's cost neutral, basically, depending on the type of meter it is for the cost of the county. It's basically we're allowing them to supply it directly out of here to make it easier for them. And then we ensure that every single meter that goes out is the same standard and the same ability for us to read it, and we don't have problems in the future.
Alice?
Well, we had a situation in Gleason where a guy had the old water meter, went and bought another one or wanted to rebuild that one, put it in. The county would not have known anything about it, except that he come back here, and Alan, you were involved in that, because he wanted to buy the parts and the housing was cracked and it wasn't sufficient to do it. So he could have bought his own water meter, had it installed and hooked up. Now, whether the water would have been turned on is a different thing, but who knows? That's my point. I don't think maybe we need to advertise better that anyone installing a meter must purchase it from the county. You know, that would resolve that issue. If everybody knew when they get a water meter or need a water meter, they must purchase it because it's certified from the county.
If you read
Right?
the last sentence on 606, it says, subject to inspection and approval of Wheatland, by Wheatland County. So if they put in a rebuilt one, a pink one instead of a blue one, it won't pass the inspection, they won't get the deposit, and they'll have to put in the right meter, I'm thinking. Final approvals by Wheatland County, not the plumber, not the homeowner, right? Mike?
And through the chair, just to that point too, 606, the first line is county shall supply water meters to each service premises at the application and payment to the county. So it does speak to the county supplying all the water meters required to be installed. If you want, I can put another clause in there that says no outside water meters will be permitted, something to that verbiage, but.
I think that's plain enough for me. Does it speak in here anywhere of somebody disconnecting their water meter? And
It does. Did you have a specific?
no, I don't.
Oh,
I'll just to close that loop in case the question comes up. If you put a loop around your meter, or power meter, people do that if they.
Right. Yeah, so to speak to that point, through the chair, 7.704 is, so when the consumer discontinues the use of water furnished by the county, or the county refuses to continually supply it, the authorized agent may at reasonable times enter the service premise and purpose of removing the meters, pipes, and any other things that are property of the county in and on those premises. So it does speak to if the meter, if the water is requested, is discontinued by the landowner, then the meter will be removed or at least made note of.
Okay, any other questions? Brenda?
So,
I'm gonna have to get a drink.
we're changing, like in 906, we are changing authorized agent to county employee. And we're doing that all the way through the document, or county employees. And I'm wondering whether we should leave and/or agents at the end of it. So that provides, because in light the fact that water is coming via Wheatland Regional Water Corporation, and if they have, if you have an issue that may not be solved, then that gives them, if you add and/or agent, then that gives them the ability to do what we do on there. And I don't know whether you want to do that or not, but it does give the option of, let's say, we have a specialist under the Wheatland Regional Water Corporation that will come out and help you, but they can go on the property with the county employee kind of thing. So I'm wondering whether it says, like, let's just take 906, for example, any authorized agent, county employee. I'd rather put county employee and/or authorized agent. Is that reasonable, I guess, to the rest of you, or?
Through the chair, I was looking at that one too, and I can name probably 10 different county employees. If they went on there and did anything that water meter, it would cost you thousands of dollars. So to me, any county employee, no, I don't agree with that. It's any authorized county employee. Qualified. No, you're just talking about who can go on there and deal with this, and it's any qualified, authorized, qualified county employee, but not just any county employee, because they're not all authorized to go on there and deal with water or water meters. And yet, this says they have the authority to go on there and deal with it. It doesn't.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying.
I know what you're saying, because you just want the authorized county employee only. But I'm suggesting that WRC may have that same kind of inspector to do that job. So if we wanted to send out an agent representing us.
Through the chair, then they have to go out with the county and want somebody from the county. Somebody representing this office has to be in. That's where that would be my suggestion.
We go back to 606,
Yeah.
it says a licensed plumber. So we got to kind of get this rounded up. We're either going to have employees or licensed plumber. Well, it doesn't say. That's not common sense. If you're a licensed plumber, you don't need to be supervising him.
Yeah, but we're saying the purpose of expecting.
And same thing, he can inspect. I mean, he's licensed.
No,
What
a
if
county
the
has
county
to.
employee isn't licensed in any way?
Do we have plumbers on staff? No. Or install water meters, but you have to have.
Okay. We are just supplying water to the municipality. If that changes in the future, then we have to change it after. Alan?
When it says any authorized county employee, we can authorize the Wheatland Regional Corporation.
We could.
to do that. So that covers that. So you don't specifically need to say each entity that's going to be there. The same as we could authorize Joe Blow Plumber, I guess, to do that as well. We haven't in the past because there is a quality control component that we have to do. We're responsible for this system. The plumbers do a fantastic job, but there needs to be some quality assurance on that on our end. It's due diligence, so.
So what do we do with it?
Well,
Brenda?
so I just threw the chair to Alan. Would it read authorized county employee and/or agent? Would you prefer that, or how would you prefer that in writing?
Authorized county employee is fine, because we can authorize Baja with the WRC or whoever as a county representative employee. It's not a problem.
Yeah. So everyone's okay with authorized county employee? Yeah? Okay.
Just a note on
Okay, what else?
under 909, it says only authorized agents. So the wording's changed again there.
Instead of changing 909, why don't you go back to 906 and use agent, authorized agent, then it's whoever, then the wording is the same all the way through, but whether it's an employee or Baja and his bunch or somebody else, it's an authorized agent that we have authorized to do that. More sense than, just so everything
Consistent
flows
wording?
the same, so that the wording flows the same all the way through.
Okay, any other questions? Okay.
Yeah. So through the chair, as I read through here, I think if it's to your liking, I will go through and change all the wording for any agents, county employee, anything like that. If you read the definition on 203 of authorized agent, it's for a county employee, an authorized county personnel, or the contractor, anybody that the county authorizes to go on that site. So I'll just change all the wording to that, and it'll be all consistent all the way through then, if that works. Yeah, okay.
So, just popped into my head, sorry, but I'm a landowner and I own a house in Rocky Ford. And I know Mike because he's been coming looking after my water all these years, but all of a sudden he authorizes Baja to come and look at my water, but I don't know him. And Baja doesn't have a Wheatland County identification. How am I as a landowner to know that he's an authorized agent?
Doesn't apply because Village of Rockford has different rules than Wheatland County.
That's why I used it. I didn't want to name anybody.
Through the chair, anybody coming to do any work has to have a work order, right? Yeah. Work order becomes their authorization because it's signed by somebody at this office, so.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of, we give authorization, we notify, like I say, if there's work to be done, if there's any kind of agent coming into their house, we typically make the landowner aware of that prior, so. It's
So
not
they'd
a
have-
written policy, it's not any written documentation, it's just a procedure that we do, so.
And as a landowner, if I have any fears or doubts, I have the right to refuse entry until I have that clarified.
So there'd be a paper trail there. If somebody comes to your door, there's. Yeah.
Oh, I got 804.
One more?
804. So, no, I know, but I seen this and I read, and I skipped by it this time. But in prison, I just got to ask, because you scratched out in any common goal?
Joe, it says G-A.
Yeah, to imprisonment in any common goal, none of that made sense. And I guess my question is failing payment to imprisonment for a period of not more than 30 days. That's 804. And 803. So if you don't pay your water bill, you go to jail for 30 days, is what you're saying? And yeah, I guess my question is where's that law? And whether that needs to be in there for imprisonment. But I guess it's a good threat, I guess, I don't know. Because you'd have to get a judgment in a court. But we put it in there.
Take a couple of years to get.
But I just kind of noticed that to a common goal in there.
Fair enough. And through the chair, it was in the original bylaw, and it's carried forward in not just this agreement, but in other agreements we've had. That's kind of why I left it in here. I haven't got legal review on this, and especially primarily that section. I was maybe not a bad idea to have Joanne look at that section to see because if we put something in there and we don't follow through with it, there's no point having it in there, right? So if there's no intent on jailing people for not paying their water bill, then we probably should look at taking it out. That's definitely a simpler way, yeah.
Approve it first.
I think that the county has the ability to take the costs and apply it to taxes, right? So, and then tax sale if they don't pay it on their taxes. So my question would be, why would we do imprisonment when we have the ability to do those kind of things through the tax roll?
But through the chair, you still have to go through a process. So if you put it in there that you go through the proceedings, and then if they still refuse to pay it, then that's when it goes on to the tax. But you still have to go through that judgment. You can't just arbitrarily put it on there.
So through the chair, if everyone's in agreement with this, I would look at ending the sentence, guilty of offense subject to fine, because we do have a fine system in our schedules here for non-payment, that sort of thing. And then just leave it at subject to the schedule of fines, that sort of thing. And then proper procedure will go after that. If they don't pay it, then it goes to the tax side and that sort of thing.
We need to go back to 803 as well. 803 and 804 has that same clause in it.
Yeah, I said that.
Okay.
Both of those.
I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Any other new ones? Concerns?
My question would be, we have a list of charges and fines, and when you put something like this, the fine and stuff in the bylaw, you can't change it unless you go back in and review the bylaw. Can you just leave that open that they're subject to fines as per schedule and just, because we have.
Go ahead, Alan.
You can include the fines in a master fee and fines bylaw, which we have.
Yeah, instead of having it written in here, that
That's
they're
correct.
just subject to.
Subject to the fines and fees as per the master rate. Yeah.
Periodically without having to go back.
And that's why we updated the master fee schedule this year to include all this stuff, so. Yeah. Makes it cleaner that way, and annually you just take another review on it and.
And just to add to that, if you look at clause 1501, the fees, rates, charges, and deposits prescribed under Schedule A and B of this will be amended from time to time by resolution of council as council sees fit. So it doesn't require rereading a bylaw or doing public hearing anymore. It just requires a resolution if council wishes to change any of the schedules in this.
Yeah, if it's in the schedule, but if you've got it in the bylaw, you have to go back to the bylaw.
Correct. And that's why I would take it out of that section there and just leave it at pursuant to the schedules.
Schedule A and B, right? I would be scared to put it in the master ski schedule. It could take days to change it. Okay, any other new concerns?
Do second and third today, or do we bring it back in its final?
Mr. Chairman, you're in public hearing, but after you come out of the public hearing, I think it needs to be brought back after it's been revised.
Okay, so my dilemma is to recess the public hearing till changes are made, or we could close the public hearing and wait for second reading when we have the changes made in front of us, be it amendment, which, Ellen?
So my question is, Mike, can you do those changes in an hour and bring it back today? So Mike will make the changes and print hard copies and put the changes shown on it in blue so they can see the new or a different color. And then maybe you guys can reconvene the public hearing.
Okay, I'll recess the public hearing for an hour-ish. Alice?
On 1601, you need to look at that paragraph too, Mike, because it has the imprisonment.
And 1501, go down.
And, yeah, 1601 and 15.
Yeah.
As well, any notes or fines.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking Mike knows the gist of what we're trying to do here. So I'll recess the public hearing till for an hour-ish until Mike comes back and fits into the schedule. Is that specific enough? Okay, it's done. And I'll reconvene council. And I'll move the 2 o'clock appointment up till now. I've got Baja here. I'll get it on my thing. What do we got here? 2.3D. Okay, Baja, do you a short introduction, please?
Hi. I'll just try to make this short. Well, I saw Mike was here. So we've been, if you remember, we've been talking about operation and maintenance agreements between the Wheatland Regional Corporation and the Wheatland County, so that we can operate and maintain your systems in different hamlets and basically have everything under one umbrella. Last time I was here, we did talk about the operation, the manpower sharing agreement, and at that time we were given the directions to get the opinion of the legal, and we did that. So I was working with Mike and Alan on the final agreement, and that's the one that was passed to you today. I'm open for any questions or anything that you would like to see in the agreement, but basically what will happen is that we will be hiring the operators. They will be operate under the corporation. That's the level 2 operators mostly. And we will operate your systems in Speargrass, Carsland, Clooney, and Gleason, and Rosebud. And with these operators also, we'll operate the system in standard, the central system, and also do the service with the rural users. We already have reached an agreement, or agreements basically, with the Village of Standard. So our agreement with the Village of Standard, we are operating their distribution and collection system. We have reached an agreement also with the Village of Rocky Ford, where we will be operating their distribution and collection system as of March, like when they receive the water from us. And now we're discussing the agreement with the county, basically to operate with the manpower to operate the systems within the county. And so basically, this is what this agreement is about, and we can see that it will bring benefit to both. And hopefully, you know, if you have any comments or if you have any questions about it, I'm here to answer them.
Any questions? Everyone understand the intent? Alice?
So, through the chair to Baha, so our employees that we have now, you're saying will become the employees of W. Wheaton Court, right? And so salaries and everything, they'll be paid through that corporation.
Yes, well, that's the plan. The thing that, because of our pipeline, say in Gleason, now the load on the operator is reduced more than 50% in Gleason specific, say. So our plan, and that's what we discussed in our board meetings since the beginning, is that the plan is basically to take all the operators from the municipalities and have them within the corporation, and so that we maintain their employment. So, and this basically will bring savings to the municipality, and at the same time distribute the time or the cost of the operator on all the partners, right? Okay. So, and that's the plan. Yep. So eventually, yes, this is what will happen.
Okay. So what about Hazar? You haven't mentioned Hazar. Is that going to be, are they going to be signing an agreement to have those same operators look after their system?
Well, specifically for Hazar, their operator is actually a contractor. Yes. And he's the same contractor that works in Rocky Ford as well. And we did approach him because we wanted to maintain this knowledge within the corporation, and he's open also to have a contract. He's not interested in employment, but he's interested in contract. So we might as well, once Hazar is in, then yes. But at this time, Hazar, they want to stay the way that they are. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Brenda?
So through the chair to Mike, because it was his request, has this been vetted through our legal?
So through the chair, this document was actually written by our legal. It was put forward, and any changes have been verified through her.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Breck? Ellen?
Mike, do you want to tell them what the costs are right now and what the costs will be as best you can?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry. So through the chair, we did look at a couple of different options for payment. You'll see on the last page, the schedule here is we looked at lump sums for utilizing our operators, and as well as hourly rates. Because we don't know the actual exact costs of these, I think we went the hourly route for the first year here at least, to kind of get a basis, to kind of get a ballpark of where we're looking. Because as Baha says, this is going to open up so many more opportunities for our operators. They get to all work in level 3 plants and gain their experience there. The time that they're going to be spending in that plant is not going to, it's kind of a ballpark. We're kind of making a best guess right now. So that's why we're looking at doing the hourly rate for the first year. We can kind of tabulate and see where we're at with yearly costs. And I think we'll go forward with a lump sum next year based on close to actuals. As far as this year, like I say, it's we're pretty comparable to where we were last year with I don't want to throw any numbers, over the 300,000 mark for this. This should substantially reduce our costs because these operators are going to be utilized in Rockyford and Standard and potentially Hazar, and so their time will be spread out. I think it'll save the county quite a bit of money in the end.
Alan?
Well, that's the other tough question. How much revenue do we take in to offset that expense?
And unfortunately, I do not have that number in front of me. But when I go back and look at this, I will make sure that I pull it out.
Yeah, if you can bring that back, just so the council understands, this is not paying for the costs of the utility at this point.
No.
We're getting closer, but it's not quite there yet. So if you can bring that back to revenue we receive.
Through the chair, on 5.4, it says that they may request additional services which are outside the scope. What would additional services be? What's an example of that?
Additional services could be like supervision in a new developed project, for example. Say, yeah, you want to have an additional network of pipes outside the normal hamlet or somewhere else, or maybe add a wastewater treatment plant to the lagoon site, right? So that's not really mentioned here in name, so that's why we call it additional services. Anything that is not mentioned here. Yeah, no problem.
I'm still not clear on this cost. You're just talking about the operators, Mike? 300,000, that's not counting any other, like, expenses there?
No. So through the chair, this agreement basically comes down to a manpower sharing or an operator sharing agreement to allow the WRC employees to work on county infrastructure and vice versa. The costs for chemicals, all that sort of thing, are still and above and beyond the costs on here. You see on the schedule there, they're actually charged at the cost plus 5% for anything that's needed to run the plants outside of the standard plant. So the Carsland, the Speargrass, Clooney, and Carsland Lagoon, that sort of thing. There is additional costs to operate those with chemicals and that sort of thing, power, utilities, all that sort of thing.
Any other questions?
I'll move the Wheatland County authorize staff to enter into the interagency service agreement with the regional corporation, Wheatland Regional Corporation.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Thank you.
So before Mike goes,
Go ahead. Mike's got some work to do.
I know, but we were going to talk about the policy.
Huh?
The policy with regards to,
Do you
right
want
at
to
the
talk
beginning.
about the policy before we let him go?
Yeah, well, I was just going to get him, I guess, I got to go back to public hearing. The initial policy was, it's written on draft there, Mike. And with regards to that, I guess the only comments that I had on that was under general number 1, into the premises is what you put, but on number 2, the wording should say the same. As I guess the only thing, it doesn't say into the premises. Or am I reading it wrong? And otherwise, did you need that approved as well, that policy? Because that's what we had discussed when we first opened it up. Did you want that approved today then as well?
So through the chair, I can change that general to read, or sorry, I'll change the second. I guess it's here or there. So the responsibility extends the connection of the premises, from the premises to the sanitary main within the county road right of way. So I could change that one to there to read that way in number 2 general.
Well, I'm just a little bit confused by the 2, I guess, so can you?
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Because you read, a property owner or tenant is responsible for ensuring the sewer water service line into the premises is kept free from blockages. and has adequate vertical cover or insulation. The property owner shall be responsible for clearing the blockages within the sewer service line on the premises, is what I think it should be. The responsibility extends from the connection at the dwelling or structure to the sanitary main line within the county road right away. So I just wanted it just needs to be clarified, like where does their responsibility end and start? Like, so other than that, if you
Through
want to
the
do that.
chair, Brenda, if you just remove the responsibility extends out of there, it does the same.
From the connection,
From the service line,
yeah.
from the connection at the dwelling, just remove those other three words and does the same.
Just needs to be clear, like, there's a little bit of clarity that needs to be there on that second sentence. First one's good, into the premises. So, but other than that, now, when it comes back, I guess you want a motion for that one as well then?
Yes, please. Sorry, I'm not sure what page it is on the.
Page 292.
292. Yeah, it looks like that with a big orange draft on it. Think we're good? Run! Yeah. 54 minutes is good.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't add this onto the agenda, but it just struck me as we're going into lunch this afternoon. So last council meeting, there was a letter provided by Baja about all of the board members that sit on WRC remaining on WRC, and I got some clarification on the letter. When I think I had stated that my understanding it was 1 year and they were asking for 5. Some of those that came from Alberta Municipal Affairs wanted us to be on for 5. And then the chairman of the WRC and I had a discussion. He feels that we need to vote on this prior to the new council. So I don't mind doing that, and if it gets defeated, I'm fine with that too. But that was kind of the thought. Is there any other clarification through the chair to Baja on the letter that you had sent me last week? Sent the council, I should say.
Yeah, if I may add to that one. Basically, when we were having the discussions with municipal affairs to get our approvals to operate and to start, one of the biggest questions that kept on repeating on their emails and on their comments is that they would like to see a kind of continuity on the board as much as possible, right? However, this does not eliminate the fact that at any point, any of the partners, any of the municipalities decides to change or replace their representative board member, they can always do that. It's open. It's just basically to have a continuity. We're utilizing the experience that happened over the past few years. You all know that this has been going on for so long that it would be easier for us really to continue as long as possible with the same board members. And those board members basically represent their municipalities, and they report back to their councils, right? And they speak on behalf of their councils as well. So yeah, the first thing is that it was a request or a concern. They did not really say you have to have it this way. It's just that they said that they would like to see continuity on the board as long as possible. And they wanted to see like 5 years. Basically, for them, it makes sense because I think it's the municipal councils, I think now, or as per the new act, would be for 5 years term or something like that. Or at least a year into the new council until, they get updated on what was going on in the past 4 years. This request also or this provision was in the agreement between the partners. It does say the flexibility is there, that the and I'm sure you have a copy of the unanimous agreement. Basically, you can have a representative at the board of Wheatland Regional Corporation, whether they are councillors or you can appoint someone as well. So it's all up to you what you do with that. It's just, as I said, we're just looking for continuity if we can. The same letter was sent to all the other municipalities as well. We haven't received any reply yet, so I guess it's because they're waiting for the new council to take, office.
Thanks for that, Baha. I know last meeting council made a decision to put it onto organizational, and I thought that would give us lots of time to get these comments from you at that time. But now we have them now, so I'll just throw it out to what's council think. Brenda.
So for me, the decision of council at the last meeting to put it to the organizational meeting is still the same. And the other shareholders on the board, Standard, Rocky Ford, and Hazar, don't have to run elections. The only chance of turnover is probably here, and we do have one incumbent that's staying. So I'm not worried about succession here. He's here. And so my theory is I'd like to see it go to a new board and let the new council that's sitting here decide. And regardless of succession, you still have to do succession. So if you tie something up for 5 years, there's no succession planning there. So you do have to have, and it is good to rejuvenate your board on whether it be every 2 years or 1 year or 3 years. So for me, the answer is to remain, to give it to the new council, and those people should be allowed the same experience as what I did when I first went on. Even though I don't sit on it anymore, I've served on that board, and that the ones coming in should have that same opportunity. So for me, it's leave it with the new council.
Any other comments? Ben?
I guess my one question when I first seen that was, and I emailed Baha just to clarify what was in what it meant, and as you said, at any time, whether it's at the organizational or any time after that, the council can make the decision to remove for any reason and replace for whatever reason they want. It's just, as you said, just a continuity. We were going through the same thing down at Drumheller Solid Waste for the same issue, and we actually went and sat and talked to the legal about that you are on that board until that board has its organizational. Just because you're not elected doesn't mean you're not still sitting on that board. So our organizational on Drumheller Solid Waste is December, so any member that's sitting there is a member until December, and that's when they get the new board members or whoever from the municipalities. So that gives that board continuity into the new, so there isn't a split. So our board, if need be, is the same until December, and at that time we accept the letters from the other municipalities as to who their member is going to be sitting on that board. So that's where the continuity comes in there. So I don't have a problem with it because we've got the clauses in there, and you said that if the new council decides to make that change, then they make that change at their organization.
Any other questions, comments? I know when we were going through the process of trying to get a corporation, and it went on for I don't know how long. We started before Baha come, and it was a constant question here at this council, when are we getting the corporation? That was a major point with the minister, was having a relevant board. He wanted continuity. He wanted to make sure there was the ability to have non-council people sitting on the board up to the discretion of the council of the day. He was, for what his reasons are, that those were his reasons. And I'm a little leery right now just because not to listen to the minister when we're so new into it. So I would encourage council to, I don't care if it's today or if it's at organizational, but if it carries over to organizational, I would strongly recommend that Baja have a letter for the organizational, or at least a letter, or maybe he's here to explain it at the orientation part of just what it is and what the minister wants. I'm in no hurry to throw anything that can be a red flag to the ministers now. They've been good to us lately. I'd just as soon keep it that way. So I'm not hearing any motions to do it now. We're going to stick by the organizational. It's in 2 weeks. Up to council. Rex?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I really have no problems with it. It can go to the new council. I can make the motion now and assume I may or may not get approved, but if that's the feeling of council, that doesn't bother me. The new council can hear what we have to say too, and I'm sure they'll understand or not, so it doesn't bother me. I'm not trying to pull any wool over anybody's eyes, so it needs to wait, it can wait. So I appreciate you coming in, Baja, for that.
See you at organizational.
I'll come to the organizational. That's no problem at all. I actually just want to say, I mean, if there are no other questions about the agreement or the other topic, I would really want to say thank you for your support. It's been really good working with you, and I appreciate personally, as well as my board, everything that you have done for us as a councillors and for your administration as well. Thank you.
Thank you for your dedication to Baja.
And that we continue to do.
And, yes. Yeah. So you'll talk to, Ellen, you'll talk to Baja about orientation. Thank you. We had a motion for Baja. That's all done. Okay, thanks for coming in. Recess till 3?
Chairman, you still have correspondence to
I
approve?
think we have correspondence, and I think I've seen one of the people coming in, yeah. Yeah, motion. Ben's moved a motion to accept of information, Baja's report. All in favor? All in favor, Alice? Carried.
Glenn, I just wanted to say thanks to Rex for doing all the work he's done on that pipeline. He's not going to be here next year.
Yeah. Okay, we'll have a short break, but not till 3. I think I've seen PJ walking in here. Presentation or?
We're having a learning experience.
Okay.
As we are progressively trying to get this.
Okay, while you're doing that, we can move on to correspondence.
Well, I think we're just about.
If you're just about there, then I can wait. I don't think so. Mm-hmm. Should be. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you, Reeve and Council, for making time to hear us today. We're so excited to bring this proposal to you. It's something we've discussed and brought on for a while, been talking about for a while. So I'm just going to do this as a view. Where's my PowerPoint? There we go. So I'm pleased to have BJ Jansen with me, who's also another member of the Economic Development Board. And we have been appointed through the Economic Development Board to be part of a planning committee for bringing in a speaker on behalf of economic development. As we've met, we've come together, so, and that comes through this. One of our key tasks as the Economic Development Board is to promote communication within the businesses and that within our municipality. So I didn't spell communicate right. We identify and communicate on municipal initiatives related to economic development. Another one of our tasks in that communication is to encourage and grow creativity and innovation within Wheatland County and encourage events, programs, and services in the county relating to economic development, agriculture, and tourism. So through this, one of the ways we feel we can do this is bring in speakers who can make a difference and really speak to individuals. We started off the initiative with, we went as a board, the majority of the board members attended a session with Colin Sprague, who's with an international speaker. He works with Jack Canfield and also with Sir Richard Branson. He was just at Necker Island last year with them, and he's going to be with him again at Necker Island, and then he participates regularly with Jack Canfield. And we had considered him and another speaker, and then as a consequence of that, the board thought that going with Colin would speak to the individual entrepreneurs and give them real tools to take away on an individual basis. So after we did that, we reached out to some other groups in the community to partner with us on this initiative. So we are now we're now partnered with Bow Valley College, Community Futures Wild Rose, and the Strathmore and District Chamber of Commerce. And in working with them and in our planning meetings, one of the things that came forward was an opportunity for us to apply for some provincial funding. And in applying for that provincial funding, the minimum amount of money that you could apply for was $10,000 on this specific grant. So we thought, go big or go bigger. So in going bigger, the idea came up that we would expand and look at the possibility of a series of 3 speakers to come in so that we can make, instead of just doing one event, we can build one event and plan and build it forward. And a lot of these details are in the written proposal that you have given to you. So do you want to speak a bit more about the other partnerships? We're looking for potential funding.
Yeah, so what we are doing is also trying to contact various businesses in the towns, the different counties, some of the other community futures initiatives, asking them if so that we can combine perhaps 3 different counties. We're thinking Starland, Kneehill, and Wheatland County, and perhaps the town of Brooks, and we would work together to bring all that group together. Our initial plan is that we will have Rosebud host it. Yahoo! Anyway, we thought that we would do that, and because it will seat about 224 people, and also when we put out bids for providing breakfast as well as the venue, that was the most economical method to go. So that's what we're suggesting for the end of February. 27th of February would be the first, and then following Colin Sprague would be a gentleman by the name of Roger Brooks, who, if you've read anything about him, he's just all about building towns and getting things going within little towns, big towns as well, but we're all little, so we'll do that. And then the third is Doug Griffiths, who speaks on 30 Ways to Kill a Community. 13. 30, we're discovering it's 30 as time goes on. So anyway, 13 Ways to Kill a Community. So those are the three speakers that we have in mind. They would start February 27th of 2018 and would go one in the fall and then one the following year, or as we can work it out, and we would have a different venue for each of the three so that we can encompass each of the three main counties that we're trying to take care of.
If that works. Now, the other thing in doing that is that we're looking at a group pricing proposal on this, is that people could invest in it and they could attend all three events for $99, which is very reasonable, we feel, but we're looking then to obtain the funding from others. So what we are asking of Wheatland County Council is we're requesting a $10,000 grant to help us move forward with these three. You have additional information in front of you in the package that was sent out to you ahead of time. So that's our basic proposal, where we're at, and do you have any questions for us?
Any questions? Brenda?
So if you buy the three package, but let's say I leave for the winter and I'm not here in February, you can still buy the individual packages. And my next question is, who is selling the tickets and are they available online?
At this point, Strathmore District Chamber of Commerce has agreed to be in charge of tickets and doing that. There will also be individual tickets that can be purchased. There is $99 is the discounted price for getting three, and then it would be $45 to attend just one. And it is available online. There will be a special landing page set up that would direct them to a page where they could buy online or buy through the chamber or any of the members. The other thing too is everybody who attends the first session will be receiving a $1,400 gift, courtesy of Colin Sprake. And make your mark.
A $1,400 gift?
Yep.
Okay. Next question on that.
Sorry, a gift valued at $1,400.
Valued. Okay, that sounds different, yeah. On that, so you're looking for a $10,000 grant. You're getting money back for the tickets. So is it just you're asking for a grant, which usually means you get the money and you're not returning it. So where are the proceeds from the tickets going back to this? Like, is it?
Okay. You had a budget page submitted to you with the proposal that came out. In that, we indicated the others. There may be a surplus of funds if we are able to receive all the, get everybody into partnership where we're projecting. Because right now, everything is just projected. This is our first ask, and we will be building on that. If there are additional funds, it would come back, and my understanding, and Alan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that the money then, if we're able to cover it, some of the money would then stay in the Economic Development Fund to be used there. We'd also like to do it for building future outreaches to community. So if we have a base, then we don't have to be able to be coming back to ask for continual. We feel that people participate better when they've invested something. If it's just given to them free, they don't tend to be perhaps as committed to what is going on. So does that answer your question, Brenda?
Think so. Essentially, so you are collecting the money as the Wheatland Economic Development Committee then, even though the chamber will then give the money back to you guys. That's my concern. You're running everything through the chamber, so there'll be all the
Okay, so the chamber will be collecting the money and we have to pay for the meals. The meals is a totally different expense. The expense for the speakers has to come out of any grants or monies that we receive other than that. So expenses and speaker fees, et cetera, are what is coming from the other money. The $99 helps us pay for the meals. The breakfast is basically all that does. And the whole banking, how that's going to work, that's one of the technicalities that still has to be worked out. We haven't, we've begun discussion with the county and with Strathmore District Chamber and also with Community Futures Wildrose. So we just have to see who receives it and how it works best and how that banking part works. We don't have that firmly established at this point.
Yeah, because essentially the sponsors, like if you actually get a sponsor for this, the money should actually come back to the Economic Development Committee. That's my concern. If this is going to be the Wheatland Economic Development Committee event, then you should be front and center, I guess is my concern.
And that's what we're working to do. Like the majority of the asks will be BJ and I going out to the different organizations, except for the ones that are affiliated. So the other, Wendy will be doing the reaches to the other community future groups, but we'll be approaching the municipalities in that to work with us.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so through the chair, you mentioned that you were going to contact Nehill, Starland, Brooks. If you're doing them, you may as well do Drum and Newell too. But are you looking at them for the same thing you're asking of us? Or are you just using them as participants?
We're going after everybody for money.
The same request from all, so you're looking for $60,000 or $70,000 rather than...
Correct. The speakers are in around $10,000 apiece.
Any other questions? Bernice?
Through the chair, so these are all breakfast meetings? You want people there at 8 o'clock in the morning?
Yes, we, in working with the business community, the best results for engagement and the response from them has been that they prefer breakfast meetings. I know.
These are normal people, right?
Achievers, high achievers. Yeah. Any other questions? Brenda?
Well, and I guess on that note, as opposed to a breakfast meeting, you must take in consideration if you're asking Nehill Starland on the distance that those people need to travel. Because not only are they paying $99 for all the guest speakers, but if they have to come in the night before to stay overnight, I think that's relative too. So you may not want to have an 8 o'clock start or a 9 versus an 8. Because if you're asking people to travel 2 hours from Brooks to come here, that's 2 hours on the road, right? So, and how long do the speakers normally speak?
We're looking at anywhere from an hour to an hour and a half.
Any other questions?
BJ has another comment.
Okay.
We talked in our last Economic Development Board meeting about the fact that because weather can be nebulous, and we are going to arrange buses from Brooks, Strathmore, Three Hills, et cetera, Drumheller. Should there be a need, there will be public transit available.
And that price would be tacked on to the original price so that it could be booked and taken care of in advance. So rather than being $99, it might be $119 or $129.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any other questions? In the event that the other municipalities don't pony up, then what's the plan B then? Turn the mic on, Marcy, please.
In the case that we're unable to finance to the amount, we would modify what we were planning on doing. So there would be modification to that. So we might bring it back to having it more, perhaps all of them, depending on where the primary interest comes from. All of the meetings may just occur in Rosebud rather than traveling to the other municipalities. The speaker that we get may vary too with regards to that. So we've, right now, we've only made a commitment with the one speaker. We've got the rates and that for the other two speakers. So this is kind of where we're just kind of going for that, and then to see what we can do to adjust it.
Okay.
So it would have to vary with that. Very optimistic and really looking to not only to look to the municipalities for funding, but looking to business to fund too and provide business opportunities, very creative opportunities for businesses to become involved in. There are a number of Colin Sprague students and his alumni already working within Wheatland County. And the town of Strathmore. So he's got a bit of a base of people who've heard him and recognize the value of what he can bring to entrepreneurs.
So you need, what, 125 to 150 for each event? Is that what it's, am I reading that right? Yeah.
We'd like to see the room filled at 200. We've got the potential for 224.
Okay.
We need to have a minimum of over 100 people there to make it go, which is why we want to start marketing it as soon as we can. And we've also put in a larger marketing budget than I've worked with for a lot of previous events, because we're wanting to have more of a reach and make it really impactful so that people are knowing about it. At the same time, recognizing that in addition to advertising and promotion, one of the biggest means of selling this is person to person.
Ben?
Is this tied to or similar, or are you guys are the ones involved with that rural initiatives on November 9th in Strathmore at the Civic Center? Who's doing that?
That's between Wheatland County, Neil County, Wild Rose Community Futures. There's a number of different partners. This has nothing to do with that. That's rural innovation, the one that we went to about 3 years ago, Ben. It's similar to that. This isn't rural innovation. This is business in general. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? Brenda?
Just a comment. Thank you for, like, when we first put the Wheatland Economic Development Committee together, I'm glad to see that you're here and that you have something for us and that your work is there. So thank you for that.
Any other questions? Don?
Is there anything else like this going on in the province? And if there is, what has been the success rate?
Through the province, there is a lot of training, and that goes on for entrepreneurs. There is also a lot of individual opportunities to take training, and that from different motivational or entrepreneurial speakers. That's available. Now, in the province, because one of the provincial priorities is the development of small to medium-sized businesses and innovation, that's one of the reasons that we've chosen this kind of an avenue to do it. We believe there's a lot of opportunity for our small businesses to become I'm trying to think of the right word. It's to do better, that they could bring in more and have more innovation. And that, for me, is one of the things that I find, particularly from Colin Sprake, that it's really switched my mindset with regards to how I would do business. It provided something that I didn't have previously. Despite my university training and my courses in macroeconomics and marketing and different things, I received a different kind of mindset and a different way of looking things through that process. And so that's, I think, what we're trying to do. Individually, what is available throughout the province, I don't know a lot of what's going on, Don. I know that the province offers, I know there's a lot of big dollar opportunities for people to go for training. Like I've been looking for some for women in leadership and that now, and it's $600 for a day. You know, or even $1,200. I think we can look at some of the things that are there. So what we're trying to do is bring something that's here that could be workable for our community, that is at a good price point for participants, but that can help create a difference in how they're doing business and do it more. And one of the things I know with Colin is his mandate is to see small businesses succeed and grow their income from $5,000 to $10,000 to $20,000 and to $50,000 per month. And that is his goal, and it's a repeated goal that is continuously put out there, and that we're challenged as students with it.
Brenda?
Just on the plans for financing this endeavor, I noticed that you have number 3, which is applying for grants. And you got Travel Alberta there, so I was going to suggest Canadian Badlands as well. Make a connection with the Canadian Badlands, especially if you're doing Brooks and Drumheller and those areas. So that would be another way, and they might help you also promote it.
We've actually on our extended list. They are on our extended list, and we have had some contact with them. And for some of the people that may not be in the position to provide financial contribution, we're looking for in-kind contributions, which in most cases would be expanding our marketing budget so that they're going to be using their marketing budgets to spread our message.
Really great. Thanks.
Any other questions? I know it's a economic committee that you're part of is relatively new. I'm just curious, how much funding does the county provide you with, if any?
I think Alan could probably answer that question better than we can.
Alan? Okay. So this $10,000 you're asking for is on top of the 5,000, I'm guessing. Is it a one-time, or is these speakers go into 2 years, really?
My goal is for it to be a one-time.
One time?
I think that if we can initiate the ticket sales, et cetera, we can have a cushion, and then we can go to that pot so that we don't have to come back.
Okay.
That's our goal,
Okay.
is to be self-sustaining.
And I don't know if you've had an opportunity to spend any of the 5,000 yet. I'm just curious if you have or if you haven't, or is it just there? Alan?
Mr. Chairman, yes, most of that money's been expended.
Okay, so in the budget for next year is another 5, or?
It's been increased to 125 to pay for events as well as an economic development officer, as shown in page 1 of the budget under operating.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? Council's wishes. Brenda?
So, do we need a request for decision, or could I just make the motion now? Do we? So I would put a motion, let me go back to the beginning of there. A grant, I would move to, where, do we have money available, I guess is my next question first before I do this. Where would the 10,000 come from? Where is it available, Alan? Through the chair.
Have to be included in the 2018 budget.
That was my other question. When did you want the money?
I believe we're applying for the CARE grant through the province, is due in October. That it becomes open, that we can make the application. So if we have a commitment to that money, even if it's available to us in 2018, the beginning of 2018, I think that would work. And if we're able to get the CARE funds, our discussions, I'm not a grant writer, so I don't understand this, but my understanding is that there's a possibility that that intake for that grant works slightly different, and we could receive their money earlier, and then if we get some of the other groups on a bit earlier, we'll have funds to deal with it in advance of January 2018. But we need to show in applying for that grant that we have partners with us to be able to apply for that. So even if there's that commitment, we can show that we have that. I believe that'll make the difference with the province.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, I was just going to say maybe it'd be a good item for the new council to discuss. If they're going to approve the budget, then they should maybe have this request in front of them.
Brenda?
So I would put I guess a request for a decision similar to what we did with these solar powered signs for staff to try to include it in our budget for approval coming up for see where we could work it into our budget in the upcoming budget for whoever's in November to approve or not approve of it. But put it on a request for decision like similar to what I did with the signs, which is a $10,000 request for the Economic Development Committee. So I would task staff, I guess, is that how I do it?
So your motion is to instruct staff to provide a $10,000 grant in the 2018 budget?
Yeah.
To fund this?
To fund this.
Okay.
And then that can be approved or not approved by, in November, the new council. It'll be left up to new council for the budget deliberations. They'll have to go over it.
Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to correspondence. Got a letter from Honorable Shane Anderson on payment of taxes and post office. Yeah, post office. Change of hours. And that's the only two correspondence items I see on the server.
So I'll move.
Nope.
I'll move council accepts that as information.
Excellent.
Okay, we'll accept them as information, then I'll take care of the question. Any questions or concerns?
I have.
Good.
Okay, I just want to just make sure, I don't know, I guess the letter from the post office is not asking for input from necessarily residents, but I'm just wondering if there's any way that we can just make sure that the residents know that this inquiry is happening. So we know about it, but then all of a sudden, you know, I don't know what the outcome will be, but if all they're doing is changing the hours to 12:30, 1:30, I don't think it's critical. But I'm just not sure that's what they're telling me, or just need to notify the residents there. If we have the information, we should pass it on.
I'm thinking there must be a bulletin board in Gleason at the post office. We could post this letter on there, couldn't we, or? Brenda?
So normally they do it themselves. When they decided to remove the postmaster's position at Lyelta, they actually asked me to go around and ask the residents what they thought. They wanted to know like what the residents actually thought, but a change in hours is simply advertising within the post office. But they're not actually changing the postmaster or the actual office. And that was the only thing that I noticed with Canada Post. They actually phoned me to see if I would talk to ratepayers.
Well, through the chair to Rex, I guess, are they open at 9 in the morning? Well, 9 or 10, whatever, but I'm just, because I'm surprised when I see this that they're not closed at noon, because Hazar is closed for an hour every day at noon, so I'm surprised that they haven't done that a long time ago.
If this and Brenda actually probably is right, this is probably just to notify council more than it is the residents. They probably do have a notification in their office every time they pick up their mail, so that does make sense.
So, but just for clarification, then, when they say the lowest number of local customers between the hours of 12:30 and 1:30, tells me that that's when they're going to close their office for dinner.
And
I don't know if that makes sense.
the irony in this is if they want to notify their customers, they can do it via mail. Sorry. Who better to mail out notices than them themselves? And the other thing, I guess, on the postal note was that we're all getting the rural boxes, the old green boxes, are now being changed out to new boxes. So if you drive down here and as you go up the hill at the Eagle Lake corner, the rural boxes are now getting to be all new boxes. So, and they are all coming.
And I'll move that we suspend council and so we can get into a public hearing. All in favor? All in favor? Okay, carried. I didn't see it flip. And I'll open the public hearing or reopen the public hearing for bylaw 2017-19. And Mike, what have you got for us?
Okay, so through the chair, I made the revisions. I do believe I caught everything that was mentioned. Basically, I accepted the changes in red here and just created all new changes based on the conversation earlier today. So everything in blue is the changes brought forward earlier. If you would like to reread them, just confirm. I basically replaced everything that I could find, county employee, any reference to county or county employee with authorized agent. And if you read in the definition, that covers county employee that's authorized or any authorized contractor, that sort of thing. So that should cover any future, if WRC handles the inspections, that sort of thing.
Okay, any questions? Brenda?
Under the 514, which is what Ben and I had discussed, your references to the first line, the county shall not be liable for damages for any accident due to the operation of sewer disposal. I think it should be sewer and or water, sewer disposal and or water system. Because then you go down to refer cause of interference in the supply of any water service or sewer necessary. So just an add in there, I think, is that Does that sound, no?
Go ahead, Mike.
Through the chair, we can make that change.
Well, just an add, because you talk about underneath B, C, and D refers to water, and the one up above refers to just sewer. So I would put sewer disposal and water services. Right, but just add in water services down there, that's all. That's all I see, thank you.
Any other questions?
Agent. Am I going to jail?
Alice, got a question?
I just have a comment. I like 606 where it says applicant will not be permitted to supply their own water meters. That clarifies that. Perfect. Thanks, Mike.
Good.
Any other questions? Ben?
I'll move second reading with the one small change that Brenda talked about.
Still in public hearing,
We haven't
Ben.
closed it. It's right.
Okay. Any other any other questions? Not seeing any, I'll close the public hearing and I'll open council. Ben, you had something you wanted to say?
Move second reading with that small inclusion that we talked about.
Okay. Perfect. Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Brenda? Go ahead, make a comment.
13, my brother got flooded. Flooded into his basement, the back flowed out. Yeah, that was an act of nature, so we had to.
Pause on the backflow.
Act of nature.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Brenda?
Third reading.
Okay,
Move.
any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Thank you, Mike. Okay, now we'll do the blockage policy.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I move the water and wastewater blockage policy for approval. I can't. We'll keep the, first
No.
reading.
This is policy, it's just a straight motion, is it
Motion,
not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
recommended approval, yeah.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? All in favor? Carried. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very
Got
much.
it done. And I believe Rex had comment.
No, I gotta be careful what I say, I'm still a counselor. No, it just, we're at the end of 4 years. This is the last council meeting now till the election. So We all survived. Nobody's been buried out in the back 40, so that's probably a testament. But really, I just wanted to say thank you to all the council. Brenda, even when her and I disagreed, we agreed to disagree, and we always respected each other's opinion, and we're able to talk to each other at any time. I got off the phone with one of my residents this morning, and we both had talked about how much work you do in the Gleason community, and I really admire what you do out there, Alice, so I appreciate that. Ben, thanks for coming today.
Thanks for showing up.
No, I just, and Ben, he's his experience and his knowledge and his karma and laughter brings a lot to council, and I've always appreciated being able to sound off of him and get some of the answers from him that I may not be able to get from others. Glenn's been a great leader to me. He kind of brought me into council and showed me a few of the ropes and gave me good advice. Keep your mouth shut and listen for a while, and maybe you'll learn something. And I did just that. So, Bernice, you've been just a great advocate of mine. So appreciate that. You're always cheering for me. So. Yeah, Don, you're a character for sure. Yeah, another good advocate and always been a good friend. So thanks for that. So, and to the staff, I don't know how you lived with us for 4 years, but you did it. Alan, just thanks for everything. You were a mentor to me, so appreciate that. No, I'm working on it. Yeah, no, it sounds worse than it is, actually. It's not that bad. So, to my residents in Division 2, I hope you feel that you got value out of this counselor. And I really tried to be fair to all the residents. Did my best that I could do. I don't know why I'm choking up, but it doesn't even. But anyways, I'm getting through it. So, it's important to me because everybody does matter, and I think no matter how silly or absurd or a request was, I always tried to bring it to council and be fair. So, and just like to say good luck to all of you in the next election. Good luck to the nominees in Division 2. I think they have definitely some great candidates in Division 2 that'll do a good job. So thank you.
I'd just like to say that Division's 2 loss is certainly Division 6 gain. So thanks for everything, Rex.
Okay, Brenda?
So just on a note back at you, Rex, I wish you well in your new homestead up there in the North Division. That's pretty cool. And I'm glad that you guys have found a new home and that the kids will look, they're now attending the school is what so that'll be a new experience. So good luck to you and the family and all the new projects that you're doing out there. Okay.
Okay. Alice?
Yeah, and thanks, Rex. Always enjoyed the conversation. And you're right. It's great when you can sit down and talk about all the tough stuff as well as the easy stuff and come out and still have respect for each other. I really appreciate that with you. Thank you.
And I just want them to know how much.
I gave you like 8 inches for an hour.
On the very last day.
It was nice to have somebody young come back in and instead of all these old
Seniors.
faces that I've been looking at for 25 years.
Just a note, Mr. Armstrong, I'm not that old, and I'm not a senior, so never.
It was nice to have that young
You're the only one that's not a senior.
Okay.
So if nobody has anything else to say,
Yeah, you better get the last meeting.
I'll get the last one.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Good luck, everyone.
Yeah.